All right. We'll somehow make this smooth segue to Michael McCann, the Sports Illustrated legal analyst who joins us now. Well, you know what? I guess to make the segue, you can look at this and think there's a couple of winners here or a couple of losers here, depending on what side, Did the NFL accomplish what the NFL wanted with Adrian Peterson here, Mike?
I don't think so, Dan. I think the NFL suffered a defeat that many people didn't expect because it's very hard to get a federal judge to vacate an arbitration award, and yet that's what happened here. And it really does signal to the NFL that its decision-making on player punishments has to be fleshed out more. Maybe some changes are needed because this was definitely a surprising decision. Now, they can win on appeal, but I was surprised by the decision, and I think many others are as well.
Okay, what's it mean for future punishment or, the NFL's authority to be able to punish a player?
Well, you could look at it two ways. You could say, well, this is pretty limited to the narrow situation of Adrian Peterson committing a wrongful act before the new domestic violence policy went into effect, and that because of that, we're not going to see it happen again, right? Because players who get in trouble going forward with domestic violence are going to do it during the new policy, so there isn't going to be that timing issue. So from that lens, you could say it's not that significant for the NFL, that it's more embarrassing. But you could also say that now the Players Association is galvanized, that the Players Association just got a federal judge to repudiate the commissioner and the league, and to call the commissioner and his designee, Harold Henderson, out as being inconsistent, even hypocritical at times. So I think this could give some strength to the Players Association in collective bargaining, in challenging the commissioner on decision-making in terms of discipline going forward. So I think from that lens, you could say it's more significant.
Can the courts tell the NFL what to do as far as playing a player?
They can't tell the NFL to play a player, but they can say that the NFL can't suspend a player, at least without pay. And that's what Judge Doty did here. He said Adrian Peterson could be put back on, and I think he has been put back on the commissioner's exempt list where he's paid but can't play. So the judge can't force the NFL to reinstate Adrian Peterson, but what the judge can do is say you can't suspend him. So now Peterson is in this sort of netherworld of he isn't reinstated, but he isn't suspended, and the commissioner's exempt list will at least serve as an interim place for him to be, but that can't continue indefinitely.
Okay, but this commissioner's exempt list, which we had not heard of until this past year, it seems like it's meant to circumvent the law.
It certainly looks that way, and it looks as if it's sort of this lifeboat for the NFL in terms of figuring out what to do with players who don't fit the parameters of the personal conduct policy or would cause the NFL to suffer a great deal of negative publicity if they suspend the player without pay. And I think that's what this is. This policy wasn't directly collectively bargained, the commissioner's exempt list. Now, the NFL would say it wasn't explained in the collective bargaining agreement, but it's referenced in the CBA, and that's good enough. But that's murky legal waters, and I think that the Players Association is aware of that.
Michael McCann, the legal expert from Sports Illustrated, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. I know you're following the Aaron Hernandez trial, and Seton's been following it too on Twitter. There's really some fascinating things that come out of this trial, but I'm curious, nobody's really that interested in it from the standpoint of, how O.J. captivated America. But there was a lot more at play, in the O.J. verdict, his popularity, race playing a large role. But, with Hernandez, does it become interesting if Bill Belichick is called in or Tom Brady or somebody like that?
Yeah, I think if Bill Belichick is called in, and I think there's a decent chance he will be called in, potentially both by the prosecution and the defense, depending upon the circumstances, I think it would really capture the nation's attention. Here you have the Super Bowl winning coach having to go on the stand, a coach that's not known for being particularly forthcoming in media interviews. He would have to take on a very different hat in that setting. He can't say, I'm on to next week or anything like that. He would be under oath, and it would be, I think, pretty compelling television, even if, in truth, Dan, he isn't really that significant for this case. If he testifies for the prosecution, he would likely retell that he spoke with Aaron Hernandez or they had some communication, but he's not really a game changer in terms of the law, but I think in terms of attracting interest, he would do that.
How does this play out with Aaron Hernandez?
Well, right now, I don't think the prosecution has established a first-degree murder conviction, Dan, and I say that because we know there's no gun, we know there's no eyewitness, and there isn't really a clear reason why Aaron Hernandez would do it. And I think the prosecution is going to be very effective at putting Aaron Hernandez at the crime scene, but that isn't enough because the two other guys aren't cooperating. One of them apparently isn't credible, and the other, Ernest Wallace, won't cut a deal, maybe because his lawyers, or at least allegedly, are being paid by Aaron Hernandez. At least that's the rumor. It puts the prosecution in a difficult place where you have three guys who could have done it, but you can't prove which one did it.
And then Hernandez, when this trial is over, he starts a new trial for 2 more murder charges?
Yeah, that's right. Later this year, at least it's scheduled. They may get pushed back, but later this year there will be another trial for 2 guys that he is accused of killing in Boston.
Thank you, Michael. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Dan, for having me on.